In order to build meaningful relationships, you need to be willing to inconvenience yourself for your friends. Online, we oftentimes hear terms like trauma dumping and in emphasizing us setting boundaries to protect our peace, but we don't always realize that sometimes that's actually making us more lonely. We tell people not to overshare, and then we judge them when they go and confide in ChatGPT instead of their friends. Welcome to Touching Grass. My name is Sofia, and the point of this podcast is to step away from the digital noise and to explore the human experience. Today I want to take a look at how online rhetoric can prevent us from creating deep relationships with our friends. When I talk about inconveniencing yourself for your friends, I'm not talking about overextending yourself or breaking your boundaries or showing up for people who do not return the energy. When I talk about inconveniencing yourself, I'm talking about both emotionally and physically showing up for your friends. This is so important, and nowadays I feel like we honestly lack this because we are so wrapped up on social media about thinking about ourselves and protecting our mental health that sometimes it actually negatively impacts our mental health instead. As humans, we are social beings and we rely on forming these deep connections with other people. But when we aren't willing to step up for our friends, whether it's out of laziness or selfish reasons in the name of boundaries or protecting your peace, we are creating this cycle of loneliness and isolation that keeps us from getting the connections and love that we look for in others. Inconveniencing yourself in friendships is being emotionally present. It's physically showing up. It's thinking about your friends. I've been so lucky to have so many friends in my life who have shown me great examples of what it means to show up for the people you love. When I first moved to New Orleans for graduate school, I had a friend who would constantly offer me rides to the airport anytime I was going home or coming back. And I never had to ask first. She would always ask me, "What time is your flight? When are you coming in? And I'll see if I can come pick you up." I think things like this, it was only a 20-minute drive, so it's not this huge thing, but it meant a lot to me because it meant my friend was thinking about me. She didn't want me to have to put the cost of an Uber. She knew I didn't have a car there. And it's showing up for your friends in the capacity that you are able to and making them feel like you care. When I went through a breakup, I had a friend take me out for lunch despite the fact that he had class really soon after. I had a friend who stepped out of work so she could call me and see how I was doing. And for me, the moments that I valued the most in my friendships, it hasn't been the going out and the laughing and the adventures. What makes me feel truly connected to these people is the time that they have shown up for me when I need them. I think that's why sometimes you realize in your life who's truly important when you go through bad things, because it makes you realize who's willing to step up for you. And I get it. Sometimes we're not in the emotional headspace to be doing that. But I think sometimes you have to evaluate, am I actually in a situation where I cannot carry anything else emotionally to be listening to people? Or am I just annoyed and I don't care about their feelings and I don't want to hear about it anymore because those aren't my emotions, I shouldn't have to handle them? You should show up for your friends. You should be there when they need you. And it's so important because those relationships in the moments where you need someone is what creates depth. It's what creates connection. It's what makes us feel loved by our friends, our families, our relationships. And like I said, everybody will show up in different ways. You don't need to look at what somebody else does and feel like you need to copy that. Because true friendship, it's not a handbook. It's gauging what your friend needs. It's being present for them. If they're sick, make them a soup if you love to cook. If they're going through a really hard time with their family, check in on them. Ask them what you can do to help. And connection doesn't need to look like this grand movie-like gesture. It's making people feel safe enough to cry in front of you, like their feelings aren't a burden. It's about being there for their wins and celebrating them, not out of jealousy, but because you truly care about them and you truly want them to succeed. It's about being there in the good times and keeping them company in the bad. It's also about recognizing what they need, even if they're not in the emotional state to be able to talk to you. Sometimes when people are going through a hard time, what they need is to know that someone will be there. Someone is willing to sit there with them and keep them company while they navigate that. It's someone asking if they want to go out so that you can get them out of the house when they really need that. And sometimes the biggest thing you can do for someone is not waiting for them to ask. It's asking first so that they know that you care. They know that you're going to show up for them. True depth comes from vulnerability and it comes from sacrifice. And it's not about sacrificing everything. There are some people who will not reciprocate the energy you give to them. And it is very important that you differentiate between these people. Not everyone's going to care about you to the same capacity. And you're not going to care about everyone to the same capacity either. So when I talk about inconveniencing yourself, I'm not saying that you need to treat every single person the same, that every single person in your life deserves the same amount of energy. What I'm saying is that when you truly care about someone, when you want longevity with someone, you want a friendship that lasts over the years, that takes feeling cared for, feeling understood, and feeling supported. It's not about seeing them every day. It's not about having to immediately text back to them every time that they message you. It's about the quality of the experiences that you have with them. As we grow up, we're naturally not going to spend as much time with people anymore. We're not in school. We can't spend 7 hours a day and just hee ha ha our way through friendships anymore. And that's why as we get older, I think this concept of inconvenience and sacrifice becomes even more important. Why are you able to go an entire year without seeing or speaking to someone and still able to feel like nothing has changed or feel a connection when you see them again? I think that comes down to the quality of the experience that you had with them when you did get to see them. Did you carve out the time to see them? Were you their support system when they needed it? Did you even know what was going on in their life? Did you celebrate them in the moments that were special to them? Did you make them feel like their accomplishments weren't just important to them, but were important to you? That's part of relationship building. That's part of being a good partner to a romantic partner, being a good friend, being a good family member. This isn't just one-dimensional. This shows up in every type of relationship that you will have. I think sometimes we also make the mistake of dividing what different types of relationships need too much. We look at romantic relationships, friendships, and family relationships as very separate. And of course, each one does have its own dynamic and its own separate needs. However, effort needs to be there for everyone. When you look at your romantic relationships, there is a certain effort that's shown to seem like you care. And with families, that's why families tend to be the biggest support systems, because people are aware of what's going on in your life. They're the ones taking you out on birthday dinners. They're the ones who want to take you out for drinks when you get a promotion. They show up to your award shows. They're the ones who know when you're sick. They're the ones cooking for you when somebody special in your life has passed away. These different ways that families show up is why that unit is so important. But you can build that type of unit outside of the family as well. But it does require your time and energy in the same way that families do. With families, people feel like they're stuck with them regardless, and that can come with its own challenges of showing up. But the point is, you want to show up for anyone in your life who's meaningful. Just because they're friends doesn't mean that your efforts should be less. Granted, this is not going to be for every single friend, right? There are different types of friends in your life, and not every single friendship you're going to have in your life is going to be extremely deep. That's okay too. Not every friend needs to be extremely deep and you pour all this energy into them. It's okay to have friends that you just party with or that you like going on hikes with. But for this in specific, when I'm talking about inconveniencing yourself or your friends, this is about those friends who are truly special to you and the people that you, first off, want long term, but you also want community out of. This is what it takes to build community. It's really thinking about what they need and what's going on in their life and not being selfish. I think the internet pushes us so often to protect our mental health, which is so important, but not at the cost of relationship building. Relationship building is an important piece of having a good mental health. And that comes with also thinking about theirs, thinking about what they need to feel loved, thinking about what they have going on in their life so that they can do the same for you. We cannot all have peace and boundaries that are healthy if we are not showing up for others. Boundary setting is not an excuse. And you should really think about who's meaningful to you and have I shown up for them in a way that they can feel. And it's interesting because I think more and more people have started to make it seem like it's a burden to express emotion to your friends, place that on your friends because they're not a therapist. But part of being a support system is the emotional side of things. It's becoming more and more common to talk to ChatGPT for multiple reasons. I think sometimes it's safer to people because they're afraid of being judged or being seen differently or being seen weak by their friends. Maybe they're trying to understand their own emotions and they feel like it's a way of understanding it. But ultimately, if we were to create more of a safe space for our friends, we wouldn't have to rely on something that isn't even real or something that isn't even human. Human connection is so incredibly important for our mental health and for our existence overall to feel satisfied with our life. So when we reject creating sacrifices to inconvenience ourselves for our friends, we are denying ourselves from a really important part of the human experience, and that is creating true, deep, and real connection. You will learn so much more about yourself, so much more about your friends, when you are willing to put yourself out there for them. And while it should come from a place that's not selfish, in return, you gain something extremely valuable. You gain understanding and you gain connection. And that is something that no amount of performative self-care can replace. Connection is also self-care. It's also protecting your peace. If you want peace, you do it by creating real relationships, real friendships, not surface level ones. The more surface level relationships you have, the less happy you're going to be. And I also think that sometimes we have this fear that we are going to be a burden or inconvenience somebody else. But it shouldn't be a burden to ask for help. When someone loves you, they should want to provide that for you. And by showing people that you are willing to show up for them, it allows them to feel more secure showing up for you. It allows them to feel this connection that they want to also pour into. People nowadays talk about sometimes how hard it is to have good friends and deep friendships, but I challenge you to take a look at yourself and really think about, am I a good friend? What do I do when I'm tired and feeling lazy? Do I make people feel like a safe space? Do I feel like I show up for people? Or am I someone who cancels last minute and doesn't think about the time of my friends? Do I not think about their needs? It's not about thinking about them always. It's not about constantly putting people before yourself. It's not about forgetting about yourself. But it is about realizing that relationships are a two-way street.